Hello guys, this is Mike from Deathless Gaming, and tonight we're going to be doing an ammo guide for all the ammo in Warthunder. That's a lot, shit.
Someday I'll let you apologize, and I'll accept your apology. I tell you just exactly what I see. I live my life like a guillotine. Hey, I, me,
Okay, so I'm going to be going through this sort of fast, and it will be 10 minutes or less. So what's ammo? Well, ammo has different purposes. It does affect how well your plane does, and how well your tank does, and how well it kills. So this is something very important to know about, and it can be very confusing since I'll just say like APFT or all this like AP, HE shit, and it can get annoying. So I've basically taken some guides, which you can see in the link, and abbreviated them, and basically telling you what to use, and you can watch some gameplay in the background. So for 7.5 millimeter for this type of gun, most of these type of guns you want to use universal belts. And remember, whenever you're choosing an ammo for air, which is what I'm starting off with, if I'm not clear on that already, whenever you're using air, choosing air ammo, you want something that lights stuff on fire. So with that said, universal belts for 7.5, 7.6, 7.92, 7.7 millimeter ammunition usually. And then you can also use ground target ammunition on 7.6, 7.7, and 7.29 in 2 millimeters. And if this is a little confusing to you, just look at what your gun says. In your Warthunder, I'll say like 7.7 millimeter or whatever, and just match it once you unlock the ammo that's best. So then again, for these early on, you want to use universal. Alright, let's move on to 7.92, 12.7, 13 millimeter. So 7.92 universal ground targets, you're, now getting more of a hang of it, but this is still early on. 12.7, P51, a lot of planes use this, a very common ammo you're going to find. What do you want to use for this? Ground targets universal, also armored targets universal works. So remember, these ammo belt rounds contain shells. These specific types contain shells that allow you to light the fuel tanks on fire more easily. Now, when you're using, a lot of people like to use tracers because they can't see anything, but the reason why that's actually a bad idea is because it's hitting the fuel tank, and as my friend PUGH'S says, thank you, he's like helped me make this guide a lot, but basically it's like a caveman chucking at flint, because it just can't penetrate the fuel tank and light on fire, so it's just going and the game mechanics just don't allow you to light that tank on fire. So you want to use universal or ground targets. And then 13 millimeter, I've only really encountered this with Russian and a couple other aircraft out there. And you want to use air targets. That's really good. Air targets, so OP. I've used it a lot, and it just destroys everything. And also, you want to use armored target ammunition if you don't have that. Alright, so now you're getting to a little more high caliber. 15 millimeter, you want to use armored targets. Alright, let's go into a sketchy part. 20 millimeters. It kind of depends. So, I've noticed that I can use tracers and get away with it, but that's probably a bad idea. You can use ground targets. It gets really specific as to what's best, but usually I find, this is probably, maybe pros will disagree with this, usually what I find is like the shell's so damn large it just rips the plane apart. But yeah, you can use like armored targets, universal. It really depends on what type of gun, and if you want to, you can click the forum link for air ammunition guide that this guy put out, and he goes into more specifics. Alright, so 30 millimeters and up, 30 millimeters, 37, 40 millimeters. This, I find, you want to use your default ammunition. Works pretty well, and it has that high explosive that will cause the fuel tank to burn up more easily. So you just want to use your default ammo. And then 75 millimeters, this is the last stop before we leave air. you want to use armored targets. So don't use your default on your 75mm. I know with me that's my PBJ. You want to use ground targets or armored targets. Those work. So that's pretty much wraps up the air. So early on, from 7.5 to 7.92, use universal. Even with 12.7, still using ground target universal. Then as you go up to 13mm, 15mm, and 20mm, it gets more specific usually. Alright, now let's go to the ground section of our guide. So there are three types of ammo really, and how it classifies the ammo. And it gets really confusing because it says like A, P, C, D, E, F, G. It's like, what the hell, man? Are you like trying to confuse me? But really, AP stands for armored piercing, HE stands for high explosive, and BC stands for ballistic capped. So let's start with the AP line, because this is what you find, this is what I love to use a lot. So AP and APC, it's your default ammo, kind of sucks, pretty much. To put it bluntly, it sucks. APCBC, this is your great. Great for range, if you're tiger sniping, if you're Russian, great. This is a really nice APCBC, because it's got that armor AP, and it's also got that ballistic cap, so good explosive, packs a punch. So great for range. And then you got your APCR, this and APCNR. So you want to use it at extreme range. It's really just punching holes in the tank at close range. But if you can't hit something at extreme range, like we're talking kilometers out, then you want to use this. And it works very well at that, very accurate. APDS, you want to use this at long range, works fairly well, and it's one of the better lines of the AP family. Finally, let's end with APHEBC. So this is pretty much a little bit of everything. This is great at range, and it's really just a great type of ammo overall. Kills things, pretty much it with it, and that's your AP line. So let's review the good ammos in the AP line. APCBC, APDS, and APHEBC. And remember, only use APCR when you're really at long range. Now, if this is like jogging you up and you're like, oh my gosh, can you write this down? There's a link for that also in the description for the forum. So, if you want to explain it more slowly, the guy who did a great guide on it does it. I'm just compiling it short into a video, so it's simple to get. Let's do HE now. So, APHE, this is a great default shell, kills people, really good. Heat, good for your stubby guns and Germans, so you want to use this when you have a short gun, and if you don't really have that, if you're not that good at long range, this is really good. But other than that, I found it kind of sucks with my other guns, but it really is good for those like cut-off guns in the German line, and I'm sure maybe KV2 it works. I don't know, because the KV2 kind of has a specific ammunition. I'm not familiar with it because I don't play Russian that much. And then HESH. This is a one-shotter, so it just kills it. Yeah, pretty much if you want something dead, literally the description for this ammo is just, it kind of just smothers your tank in explosion. So, yeah, if you want something dead, that's it. And BC is ballistic capped. It's not really, usually, it doesn't really have its own line. It just kind of merges with AP and HE. So if you're curious as to how tank ammo penetrates, AP just goes into it and just goes into the tank itself and sometimes explodes or shatters. And then HE basically hits the tank and explodes like a bomb outside it with such force that it can, like kill, or sometimes even if it's HE hits the right place, it will like blow up the ammo inside the tank. And remember, default HE usually isn't that good, I find personally. And that's pretty much for all the ammo in Warthunder that's going to cover. But remember, guys, just if you're having trouble, just Google or go onto a forum. I find I have a lot of trouble with ammo sometimes, but really choosing the right ammo can mean the difference between getting a lot of kills and getting none. So, with that said, this is Mike from Deathless Gaming saying goodbye.
Oh, 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 oh.